Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jehovah's Witness. And this is the interview series that I do, the EXJW Interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing one of my friends I met over social media. And like so many in the community, they were very welcoming to me. I was kind of all alone, like a lone wolf, when I walked away in December of 2024. I started talking to individuals in the EXJW community like mid-May, early June. But this is a gentleman that always made me I felt welcomed, I felt heard, and I appreciate him. So I wanted to interview him. So everybody, please welcome Chris.
Hey, thanks, Mitch. It's good to meet with you. I've got my coffee. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, all right, good. You got coffee, I got water. We are ready. Yeah, so I'm happy to have you on. We've talked like in private messages and everything, and I really, like the story. We'll mention it later, but I like the path that you're taking with what we're doing because it's so many Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's like we all have our own different path. Mine is just trying to help people with truth and honesty and transparency towards the organization. And we'll talk about, your path later, but I appreciated everything that we talk about. And so I wanted to bring you in front of my listeners and viewers so that they can see what I see and hear.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, and I do have a TikTok channel. That's where we primarily have spoken. And so some may recognize my picture from TikTok. I don't have any personal videos on there, but I have a lot of organizational related things.
And what's your TikTok handle?
It's at Mercifer, MERCIPHER. And I just have my name on there, so it's pretty easy to find.
All right. So, yeah, like he said, some of you might recognize him already from TikTok. As I do with all my interviews, take us to the beginning of your beginning with the organization, the Jehovah's Witness organization.
Sure. Yeah, I was born in third generation on both sides of my family. So my mom was raised in it basically since she was like 4 or 5 years old. So her parents were the originals. They studied and became witnesses. And then my dad's side of the family, his parents and all of his siblings were baptized before him. And then they unfortunately talked him into it, into studying. And he was baptized when he was 30. And I came along pretty late in their life. Dad was 39 when I was born, but ever since I was born, it was regular family studies. Of course, all of the meetings, 3 days a week back then. Dad was an elder. Mom was a regular pioneer for the past 10 years of her life. So, and then of course, all the extended family on both sides, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody were witnesses. So it went pretty deep.
Wow. I heard so many of y'all mention how many relatives are actually in the religion. Like for me, it was just my immediate family. So I can't even imagine like having more, just like all kind of family in it around you.
Yeah.
So you were you were deep into it also. Wow. How old were you when you got baptized?
I was 12. I tried when I was 11, but my parents were like, well, let's wait another year. They should have said, let's wait another like 6 to 8 years, but So yeah, I was baptized at 12 in 1996 in Boise, Idaho.
Oh, okay. All right. You're not far from me.
Yeah. A few hours.
So I take it the way you worded it. I take it that it was your idea to get baptized.
It
At you
was, yeah.
when you were 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was completely mentally bought in from the day that I could start understanding what was going on. So I became a publisher and started giving talks when I was 7,
Oh
and
wow.
and then I really wanted to get baptized, so they let me get baptized at 12, and then beyond that I regular auxiliary pioneered with my cousins throughout my teen years. I never did regular pioneer. Thinking back on it, I'm not really sure why, but I continuous auxiliaried for a few years with them, and of course was involved in everything you would think the sound. Since we were a really small congregation, I also then worked in literature, helped with accounting, and
Oh wow.
you know did all the usual things. I never was appointed a servant. I was recommended at 19, and at the time I was also leading a sign language group in the congregation, and learned sign language from a family that moved in, and was interpreting at the assemblies and conventions.
Oh
But
wow.
I I just I knew that if I was a servant, it would lead to being an elder. And one of the things that really was off-putting to me, even as mentally in as I was having that much control over somebody else's life. My dad was an elder for 20 years, and so I watched how things worked, and because I was so in, he shared things that maybe he shouldn't have at the time, and so I just decided that I didn't want to be appointed, because I knew if I was appointed a servant, then the natural progression is being appointed an elder, and all of my
Mhm.
uncles were elders, my grandpa, my dad. So I knew there was going to be a significant amount of pressure. And so I thought it might be easier to avoid that if I just wasn't appointed at all, and decided to be just the best publisher that I could be.
I get that about the elder. Like I was a ministerial servant 3 different times, but I never really wanted to be an elder. Just from watching my father and what he went through, and then like you mentioned, just like it's serious, having that much involvement in people's lives. I was happy with doing what I was doing, and it sounded like you had a lot of, they call them, privileges as well. uh,
Yeah, that's
so
right.
so it's like yeah. I would tell elders that, because they would be like, you're a ministerial servant a couple of years, and then they're like whispering in your ear, "Oh, you're gonna be a elder soon." And I'll be like, "I'm good. I'm
Yeah,
doing everything I want to do now. I don't want judicial meetings." Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I could not imagine myself being in a judicial committee and having to deal with all of that. So, but yeah, I stayed completely mentally bought in up until September of last year. So just a year ago. And both my parents have passed away, so that
Mm,
probably made it a little bit easier to make an exit. And out of 7 children, we only have one that's still in, and
okay.
so I didn't have any any immediate siblings that I was really close to that were in, and with my parents gone, I didn't have to worry about that. But about a year ago, I decided to let myself start doing some research, and specifically into CSA cases, and
Mm.
and that led me to watching the Australian Royal Commission, and I
Yes.
I, I binged watch all 8 days of that, and
Oh.
I was just blown away.
Mm.
And I went to my wife and I said, "What if this is all fake?" And I didn't know what to expect her reaction to be, really, but I was kind of surprised. She was very relieved that I said
Oh
that.
wow.
And
Okay.
she was really mentally out, and I didn't realize it. I mean, I knew she had issues with some things, but I didn't realize she was checked out. And so
Wow.
she was really relieved that I came to that conclusion, and I said I'm going to have to start digging in and doing more research, and so I spent the next couple of months really digging in, and by January I said, you know what, I'm ready to disassociate. I can't support this organization anymore. And she was like, I'm ready to. So
Wow.
we disassociated together in January.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, we spoke. We kind of walked away at the same time. Yeah,
Yeah.
you and I and your wife as well. Just a side note, did she tell you how long mentally she had been checked out?
A few years.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how we keep it from our spouse? Because I checked out mentally my last convention I went to May of 2023, but I didn't
Oh,
mention it to anybody. It's just like I was just like I have to be in for my family. That was my mindset. Yeah, but
yeah.
yeah.
So the last district convention that we attended in person was actually in 2017. And the reason being that in the beginning of 2018, we moved back to Idaho from the Oregon coast because my mom was diagnosed with ALS.
Mm,
And so we moved back to help my parents. And because of that, they would get a link, for the conventions. And so we would just watch
mm,
it with them at home. And then mom passed away in 2019, and then dad needed a lot of help, and so we stayed in the area, and I just continued to join him for any assemblies or conventions. I would just join him and watch it with him,
okay.
to keep him company, and it saved me from having to plan, so
Mm,
much surrounding the
yeah.
the assemblies. So
Okay. Got you. Yeah. You mentioned something else that's similar to me as well because you said it was kind of easier for you to walk away after your parents sadly passed away. I feel that because my sister, she was a regular pioneer until the day she passed. She passed last September
oh
from cancer. And so she stayed on me about, like, and she would listen to every part I had, every public talk. She would listen on Zoom, and she always just wanted me to, like, stay in the truth. And then I was like, I couldn't take it anymore. She passed September of 2024. By December, I had enough with the organization. And like,
wow.
yeah, I think it would have been very hard had she still been living because she
Yeah.
probably would have flown here to Washington.
She would have grabbed you by the ear and pulled you
Yo,
back
for
in.
real, for real. Yeah. So I feel you on that part. And then, okay, so to back up, when you got baptized at 12, when you were a teenager, was there any point where you kind of had doubts or you felt like you were being tugged two different directions?
Not at all. I
Wow.
Yeah, I was known as far as the siblings go. I was known as the goody two shoe. I just I never did anything wrong. I never wanted to live a double life. I was so bought in that I was trying to be like the model male publisher, and of course with my dad and uncles all being well-known elders, I had some, not only some clout in the organization, but
Mm,
also I felt like a lot of responsibility on my shoulders to keep their reputation good,
yeah.
and
Oh
all.
yeah. That weighs heavy on you when you're young. And that's what they would always tell us. We bear the family's name on us, when we're teenagers and our fathers, if they're elders or servants. And yeah, that's commendable though, that you were young and like had that much resolve. That's commendable. I always felt pulled. I loved like the religion and I loved doing things around the congregation. But then I also had a part of me that wanted to feel normal, like when I was at school or wanting to choose what recreation I wanted to do. So yeah, but see, you sound like my sister. I was more the black sheep out of the three kids. I was the one always asked questions. I was always the one to push the envelope. So yeah, Now, other than as you're an adult, and you said the CSA really bothered you, like it bothers so many of us, but as an adult, was there anything besides CSA that kind of got to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. Yes, there was a very pivotal time. So in 2022, July of 2022, I was diagnosed with cancer. It was Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Okay.
And by the time I had been diagnosed, I had had it for about 10 months. And I couldn't figure out why I was so sick. But they had done a biopsy and it came back negative. But there was something clearly wrong. And my doctor just pushed and pushed and pushed. And we finally did a CT scan. And so they took out a lymph node and tested it, and it tested positive at that point. And of course, this congregation that we came back to was the one that I had known many of them since I was a little kid. Even though we didn't live here until I was 10, we would come to visit, and my parents had been here in the early 80s. So I had known a lot of the ones in the congregation pretty much all my life. And of course, they were aware that I had been diagnosed with cancer. And throughout my treatment, I was just absolutely blown away by the fact that I did not receive a visit. I didn't receive a phone call. I didn't receive a text message from anybody. And that really shook me. And then my younger brother called, and he was disfellowshipped when he was 17. And I hadn't really talked to him for nearly 20 years because of that. And he called me and said, "Hey, I heard. I wanted to check in on you. I know you've got, tons of support there, but I just wanted to let you know that I was concerned about you." And I said, "You know what? Actually, ironically, you're the only one that's reached out." And he was like, "No way. How long have we known everybody over there?" And I was like, "I know. I haven't heard from anybody." And so him and I reconnected, and we've been in touch ever since, thankfully.
Nice.
That was a long time to have that relationship severed because of disfellowshipping, like so many other stories involve. So I would say that point that really started getting me to thinking, wow, this is supposed to be the most loving brotherhood in the world, and we're supposed to be able to rely on Jehovah and the brothers and sisters for times of need. And so that one got me. I started questioning. One of my chemo nurses asked me, "Where are all of your Jehovah's Witness friends?" And I said, "You know what? That is an excellent question. Where are they?" And so that started a little bit, but I still wouldn't start really questioning or thinking that it's all a lie up until that point that I started digging into some of the CSA cases, and I was curious how the organization handled court cases like that. And so when I found the ARC, I actually had watched my first apostate video on YouTube, and of course I was like, "No, I'm gonna invite demons into the house, and I'm sharing in his wicked works." But it was a YouTube channel called The Falling Tower, and I finally made the decision to click that video, and he was talking about the Ark, and I was like, "What is that? I've never even heard of that." So I looked it up, and that was the end of it for me. And then I started digging further and finding out all the other stuff, related to court cases and documents and lies, and then following the court cases and the decisions that are being made in the organization, the changes, and especially with Norway. If you follow the court cases, you can kind of get an idea of where the organization is going to go and what changes they're going to make, because
Yeah.
if their primary concern is that 501c3 status, you know.
Oh my goodness, yeah. That's what I always tell people. Like they think, oh, it's so great. Look how much they care for us, and they're giving us this new light. I'm like, yeah, okay. That's a money light.
Yes. Yep, that's right. Yeah, that
Now,
flashlight seems to have an on-off button.
okay. Well, when I was in, like, I was all in. I believed wholeheartedly in the organization. I defended it. I didn't want to hear anything bad about it. If somebody mentioned cult, if they mentioned CSA, I would dismiss it. I would say and I would tell my wife, we're talking privately, and I'd be like, this stuff in every religion is probably like a one-off. Now, when I started looking at like what you're looking at, like, I'll ask you first. When you saw ARC and you looking at other court cases, as someone being so all in, how did it make you feel?
I was just shocked. I, there became too many very logical things to look at, and by profession, I have a career in operations leadership and operations analytics, and so every day I'm working with solid hard data, and so when I started coming across that where it was things that I couldn't refute, or hearing Jeffrey Jackson say that they're not the only spokesperson that Jehovah uses, and I was just like, what is he talking about? And then of course all of the other testimony, just I was shocked, and then it started snapping me out of the hypnosis to where I was going, something's very wrong.
Mm, yeah, I had walked away in December, and like, I found Jehovah's Witnesses on TikTok, and like you said, at first I felt like I was gonna combust or something, But the more and more I listened, it just made me curious, and I was like, I have my mindset was I have nothing to lose. I don't go anyway. And I just started listening, and I started talking with people, and the one day someone sent me a letter. They said, "Have you seen any physical proof yet?" And I was like, "No, I've just been watching videos." They said, "Well, they got my email address. I'm going to send you a letter that one of the branches sent a congregation body of elders." And when I saw that letter and them telling them to not tell anyone in the congregation about this particular guy in the congregation, we heard he's newly married, don't tell her. Can you imagine the devastation it would cause to her? And I'm like, coming up in that religion, I saw things pretty much black and white. It's right or wrong, and I'm just like, how could they be saying this? Like, and then it just turned to like anger and hurt. I felt let down, and yeah, it was pretty rough for me. Like to
Unbelievable. Yeah.
really see how evil and bad that they were, and then like we like you talked about, you have ARC and Norway, and the more research I started doing, and it's like cases the northeast part of the country is like several states involved, but these are the feds. The feds are saying that Jehovah's Witnesses had a sex ring
Yeah.
in the northeast, and then that's my head. I'm just like,
And after
and
17 JWs were arrested in Pennsylvania,
yep, yeah,
I mean, yeah, what else could that be except a ring? I mean, how
yeah,
else do you find that many in that proximity that quickly?
yeah.
And
It just boggles my mind. It pretty much turned my world personally upside down, and
yeah,
like that first part of deconstruction was pretty rough for me, because everything I believed in, when you come to realize it was, bogus and false, that's a lot.
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh
It
my
is.
goodness.
But you know what I did after I disassociated? I was still on the email distribution list for the congregation, and so I took everybody's emails and I BCC'd everyone so that the elders couldn't see who it was being sent to. But I wrote out an email in my JW accent, and just said something like, "Hey, I know several of you were asking about the Australian Royal Commission and had questions about it, and so I just wanted to provide the link to it. And here's the link to the website for the transcripts in case anybody wants to verify that the video is real." And this gives a really good example of how the organization deals with court cases. And I didn't want anybody's spidey senses to go off.
Yeah, I like how you said that you use the JW jargon.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my god, I hope it opened someone's eyes.
I never did. Yeah, I never did get any responses from it, but I thought if anybody is curious or they've already heard about it and they want to check into it, maybe that'll be the push they need.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Do you? I talked to some and they've been involved themselves. Do you know anyone personally that was sadly involved with that, or you just?
I did. Yeah. With CSA specifically, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in the congregation that I grew up in, there was family there. The father was a servant and the mom was a pioneer, and he essayed all three of his daughters, and of course the elders wouldn't report that, obviously, but the mother decided to, and she reported it to the police. She was, as a result, removed as a regular pioneer because she did that. But he ended up being convicted and was sent to prison for 25 years. And shortly after he was released, I guess he either got in touch or tried to get in touch with his daughters, and one of them sadly took her life. The one that I went to school with, she was 29, and so I don't know that if it was directly related to her father getting released and trying to get in touch with her, but it was shortly after that. So sadly, she felt she didn't have another way out. So of course, I was too young at the time to really know what was going on, but found out about it later.
Mm-hmm. That's so sad, man. I'm glad the mom did what she was supposed to do, and I can't believe they removed her for protecting her daughters.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's
and I'm hearing other stories, about that the parents that chose to speak up in some form or another, the congregation kind of punished them for doing so.
Yeah.
That made me livid as well against the organization. Like, because in talks and in like watchtower lessons and convention parts, they're always saying if the organization sees something like that that needs the authorities' attention, they're going to by all means let it be known. Like they say that, but then I'm hearing all these instances where that's not happening, and I have people telling me personally, like, yes, it's happened to me, and this is what happened, and they did this and did that, and I'm just like, it was a lot to take in that this organization that I put so much trust in for 54 years, like, turned out to be so crooked and evil. Yeah.
That's so long. And then like you said, to realize that you were lied to your whole life. It's a, you take the red pill and it's a hard pill to swallow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll never forget that was the day that my friend in the UK sent me that letter from the branch to a body of elders, and I read that. I made a video on TikTok. I was so mad I started crying, and I tell people that's the day that EXJW was born. Like,
EXJW came in like a wrecking ball.
Yeah, for real. I was livid, man. Like, because
I don't blame
you know what? I think about, like, my parents, and I'm sure yours, like my parents, they came in their early 20s, got baptized in 1966. They're in their 80s now, still clinging on to the hopes, which are all lies, that this organization has fed them. You know, and that is a whole nother different part of live it in me.
That's a different level of frustration.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. It's we. I talk a lot about on my podcast and in my Facebook group. I talk a lot about acknowledging what we've been through and the hurt that we go through and everything. Another part that I'm very, very huge on is like positivity and what we're doing to heal and what positive things we're doing in our life now. What did you find help you in that healing process or to change that negativity into positivity in your life?
Probably one of the biggest things was starting therapy. I found a therapist that specializes in religious deconstruction, and she's very familiar with the witnesses, and so there wasn't a lot that I had to explain. Just if there was any detailed nuances or structural things, but otherwise she was very familiar with the witnesses, and that was a huge help. I think the other thing was getting on TikTok myself and checking the social medias and actually seeing what people were saying and why they left. And when you hear why somebody leaves while you're mentally in, you just don't pay attention. There's just no reason to leave. Your faith was weak, or you're just spiritually weak, and so it's a you problem.
Yeah.
And it in the organization, it's always a you problem. And so I think getting onto the social media was really helpful for me, and then, like you said, just seeing how I think the way people are mistreated and the CSA in the organization, I think it's much bigger than what we even realize.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I couldn't believe just how many people were talking about it in their comments and things. That just blew my mind, because even with all of the court cases and everything, and then seeing these random comments, I just thought, wow, I think this is a much bigger problem than what we realize.
Oh yeah. I feel the same way. I like I recorded earlier today, and that's we were talking about the same thing, and I feel that there's because they don't check out anyone like when you become appointed or anything. They don't verify. You just answer. Have you have you ever been accused of doing things with a child or anything like that? Have you been involved with a child? No. And then they just move on to the next question. So I feel there are so many predators in that organization and no one even knows about. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Which is
who
sad.
knows how many comes in from prison witnessing,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know. And if you're going to, in my opinion, if you're going to appoint someone into a leadership position in the congregation, at the very least, do a background check.
For real. Yeah.
You know, but that's never been a practice.
Not at all. They're appointed by Holy Spirit, so they don't need to.
Yeah, that's one thing that really got me, that came out of the Royal Commission, was the one victim's father was appointed a servant while he was abusing his oldest daughter, and
Yeah.
that really stuck with me. And I thought, wait, if he was doing that and appointed, Holy Spirit couldn't possibly have anything to do with that.
No, no,
So
not at
then
all.
that's the crumble too.
Not at all. Someone asked me that, and they were being very sincere because they weren't familiar with how that process works. And she she asked me about Holy Spirit being a part of it, and I told her I can honestly assure you that Holy Spirit has nothing to do with it because the first time I got appointed in the late '90s, no way in the no way in the world I should have been appointed. Like I'm sitting in there and they're asking me, telling me I'm been recommended for appointment. I'm just like, okay, and they ask you, do you accept that? They ask you those two questions, and like, what are you gonna say? like yes, I accept, but there's no way in the world I should have been. And yeah, I was like, that was the first time I was like, you know what? This isn't the Holy Spirit. Don't have anything to do with this.
Yep.
I wouldn't be in this room if it was.
Yeah, it turns
Trust
out
me.
it's a little bit more of a popularity contest than anything.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's who you know, and it's any like you said, therapy helped you. I did. I had to do therapy as well. She helped me realize it was a cult. I was still fighting. I, I went down with the fight. even
Yeah.
even in therapy, after I walked away, I was still fighting for that stupid organization. It's not a cult. So she was like, "I'm gonna give you something to read next week when we start our session. I'll ask you again." And I read what she recommended and came back the next week. She was like, "Did you read?" And I was like, "Yes, I did." And she was like, "What did you think?" And I was like, "I was in a damn cult." She, it took someone just, she has no skin in the game. She don't have anything to win or lose, and it took her to help me realize, like, I was in a cult, and that was hard too, because
And then it dawns on
yeah,
you,
yeah,
oh, this is why they don't want us going to therapy. This is why they don't want us having a psychologist or a psychiatrist. They'll make us realize we're in a cult.
yeah, for real. And then I'm talking to, like you mentioned, we're talking to the ex Jehovah's Witness community. They had me so afraid and programmed mentally that when I saw the first few, I was literally scared. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to talk to them, and gradually I started like listening to what they were saying. After a while, and I told some people this, I was like, you know what? I think they didn't want us to talk to apostates. I said because they're normal. Like they just want to be understood. They want to be heard. No one is yelling at me. I said people talk to me better in the ex Jehovah's Witness community than they did in the congregation I left. And I
That's
think that was
cool.
I think that's another scheme they use. They want you afraid because they don't want you listening to people that started using critical thinking and doing their due diligence, and that too made me livid. I was like, these are nice people.
Yeah, it turns out they're whistleblowers, and you know, in any organization you have to villainize the whistleblowers, and they just do it in different ways is all.
Yeah, and it took me about a week to feel comfortable. And that's sad. I laugh with, oh, what is it? This Way Out, Nathan. And
Yeah.
yeah, we laughed about that because I told him it took me about a good week not to be afraid. And I'm just like, you know what? No one is under demonic influence. Nobody is like screaming at me. But yeah, another tactic that they use just to keep the truth away from people is they villainize the ones that have made the conscious decision to walk away. And how do you feel about this? It upsets me because it's so many double standards. They tell us all the time about free will, and God doesn't force anyone to serve him. What do you find happens when we use our free will when it comes to that organization?
Yeah, that's one of the funny things on social media is there's so many JWs that will talk about, well, you have free will, nobody made you or nobody forced you,
Yeah,
or you can leave whenever you want. Well, yeah, sure, you can leave the mafia whenever you want to, but there's consequences for that. So if if you exercise that free will, you get punished
yeah, yeah.
one
And
way or another.
I try to help people realize that because, like I said, I want to be honest and transparent to people because I have teenagers who can't speak up yet because they're teens in their parents' homes. I have Bible studies. I have people reaching out to me saying, "Hey, it's this guy want me to study because he wants to date me, but I don't know about the religion, but you seem honest." And I try to just be honest with people and let them know what to expect. And that's one of the things I talk about. Like they'll love bomb you in the beginning, but as soon as you go contrary to what they want, you're not going to feel that love. You gave a great example because I had to experience this too. Sadly, is when you are in need and you were sick and no one reached out to you. I let people know that because I've gone through that too. Sadly, and I just try to be open with people, but that is a huge part. I let them know you're going to be love bombed in the beginning, but if you use your free will like that, that's pretty much it. They have so many labels for that in that organization.
That's right. Yeah, and you don't even have to be necessarily disfellowshipped or removed to be shunned by the congregation.
Yep.
If they mark you as bad association, that's
That's
the
it.
same thing.
Yeah, and I'm sure. Well, I know for a fact I got marked after I walked away, and I think. Well, I don't think. I love TikTok for the fact that you can see who visits your account.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one week I just kept seeing different witnesses, and then after that had two elders show up at my door. Thankfully, I was away from home, but I saw them on Ring camera. But I figured I was like, okay, I'm probably marked now.
Yep, you can count on it.
Yeah. So we talked already, and you said you want to mention it. What do you have going on as far as the Jehovah's Witness healing process and everything?
Yeah, I never intended on creating content at all. I really enjoyed watching all of the interviews that I watched on YouTube, seeing the videos on TikTok. And so for several months I was just going through that and in the Reddit group. And then one day I just got to thinking there's things that I would put out there too. And maybe it's duplicated information, maybe it's not, but I also want to contribute to the XJW community. And my thinking was if there's more voices, it'll be harder to ignore
Yep.
that something is wrong. And so then I started thinking about, well, what would I put as content? And there were so many things that I would come up with every day, including clips of the Royal Commission, that I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it, and I want to join the community, and there's some healing in doing that, and feeling like you're contributing, and like you said, I've had several people reach out to me and thank me for the information. In fact, two people reached out and said, "Hey, thank you so much for posting these videos. My husband just woke up because I showed him that video clip, and he's realizing and is open to now doing more research." And I thought, that makes it worth it if it's just one person. And you just have no idea what effect the comments that come into play on the content will have for others, or questions that are asked and answered. And so I think that's something that's really helped me in the healing process, which I didn't expect. So that's been a positive for sure. And then of course, having my wife leaving with me, that's huge. There are so many stories that I see on Reddit or TikTok where one spouse has left and the other one is still completely mentally in. And I can't imagine what kind of challenges that brings on, especially if there's children involved. But yeah, I think having her and being able to just talk everything out, and having somebody that knows exactly what I'm talking about has also contributed to the healing. And her mom has since left, and her sister. So and
Wow.
her dad was never a witness. He was never baptized. So her family is completely out now. Um,
Wow. That's great to hear. Oh my goodness. I bet. So and you say her father was never in.
no,
How does he feel now that, like, I assume they do holidays and birthdays and things like that.
I don't know if he does now.
Mm,
I don't think he ever has. He's never really had an interest. Her parents got divorced several years ago, and so
okay.
we're not we're not as in close contact with him as we once were. But yeah, he's never been big on holidays or anything. But yeah,
Ah, okay.
he was never wanting to dedicate himself to the organization. So he never became a witness.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, was he thrilled that they left the religion? I have relatives that they just like ecstatic that I'm no longer a witness now.
Funny, yeah.
Yeah.
He noticed right away there were things he picked up on that we were sharing or saying or something that he was like, he called one day and he was like, "Hey, are you guys not witnesses anymore? What's going on?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, as a matter of fact, we're not." He was like, "Well, I always knew that there was something wrong with that
Hmm.
religion."
Yeah. Sounds like my relative. I posted about us celebrating my daughter's birthday for the first time, and she turned 18 in September. And yeah, my relatives, they were like, "Is this you?" Like, they wanted to know, if my channel got hijacked or something.
Funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
So,
how can I'm sorry.
oh, I was just gonna say there was something that I wanted to ask you.
Oh, yeah.
Um, because when you're in the organization, it's your whole life. It's not something you do on Sundays. Every decision you make is because of the organization, and so that's what's most important to us. So, since you left, what would you say has replaced that level of importance, or what's important to you now?
I think, man, the first thing I had to do was I, I, I honestly went through a mourning period. That's what I call it, because just my whole way of thinking and my belief system to me got shattered. So I had to just really come to terms with that, and things like mortality started going in my head. Like, because we're fed the new world and all this, and now I'm just like, man, I'm 55. I got about 25, 30 more good years in my life. So it's like, going off of that, I just told my family I'm going to try to focus on living life uninhibited, unafraid, and doing things that I want to do or that I find interesting. And part of that is helping others. I like helping people with what I'm doing with the ex Jehovah's Witness community. Sometimes it's very emotional because someone out of the blue will email me or message me on TikTok. And I've had a couple of people say that I stopped them from unaliving themselves because of a video I made or something I
Wow,
said. And that
that's
it,
amazing.
it weighs a lot on me. I take this serious. Besides that, I'm trying to find out who I really am, and I'm putting a lot of effort into reading, to learning, because learning certain things in that organization wasn't the only word I can think of is allowed. It wasn't really allowed. They didn't want you doing that, and so I'm just trying to, like, put positive energy into finding out who I am, into helping others in that organization. The way we helped others was preaching to them, you know. But I'm finding other ways that I can help people, and I'm looking into different things that I've never looked into. I've, registered to vote. I'm going to start looking into volunteering, and I'm just trying to like I said, that's my mindset now. I'm at the age now where I just want to complete my life being good and helping others. And so
That's
that's what I'm
that's
focusing on.
awesome, man. Hey, cheers to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you can see, that makes me like, it gets me every time a little emotional because I'm not doing this for popularity. I'm not doing it to like for likes or anything. I'm doing it to just try to help people. I never thought it would get that deep to where someone's telling me what is stopping them from doing. So I take this very
Isn't
seriously.
isn't that crazy? We feel like we help more people in a more meaningful way now that we're out
Oh yeah,
than we did when we were in.
yeah, yeah. I definitely feel that. I made a couple of videos about this. I hated field service. Like I felt like we were just spinning our wheels. I felt like 98% of the people hated seeing us coming to the doors. Like I hated it. But now, like I enjoy doing what I'm doing. Like
Yeah.
honestly, I enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the witnesses are just lucky that we're not out creating territories knocking on their doors.
Oh, my goodness, man. We would have so many return visits.
Could you imagine? Yeah, I
I've been
really enjoyed
practicing
what.
that though.
Yeah, I was curious, and I've really enjoyed watching your family's interviews that you've had and getting to know them a little bit,
Yeah.
and it seems like it's a passion for you,
It
and
is.
hopefully it's helping in your healing process as well.
Hmm. It's therapeutic. When I first started it, and you can watch like the first 5 videos I made, it was just kind of telling my story. For me, it was therapeutic. Like honestly, Chris, when I made those first 5 videos, it was just me talking,
Hmm.
and I had people commenting and messaging me saying, "This is exactly what I went through. This is exactly how I feel. Like, thank you for being a voice." Some people telling me I'm saying things they want to say, but they can't because they have families filling in. And then, like, it just started clicking. Like, man, I was doing this as a therapy for me, but it seems like I'm helping people, and I just continued.
Yeah, and I haven't done any personal videos, and I can't even really tell you why. I guess I was just so focused on the material, but yet I hadn't done any interviews or put out any personal videos, so this is an exclusive. But
I
but
appreciate it, man.
I've been thinking about doing the same thing, because even though our experiences are a lot the same, there are a lot of nuances and specific circumstances that resonate with some people more than others, and they can relate to it. So
Yeah,
I've been considering doing that
and
myself.
in our life now, we have true free will. So this isn't by no means trying to tell you what to do. I'm just saying consider it because, like you said, we were kind of born and raised in it, but we have different stories. The posts that get the most views and likes, and like it's been a couple months and they're still getting likes, are the ones where I'm just talking about an everyday experience in my life as a witness
Hmm.
because people can relate to it and they're asking me questions and like you having done so many things that's interesting to people, both those who might be studying or are studying, or those who are in it who are kind of either leaning towards being PMO or they are PMO. Like I've had a lot of PMO individuals reach out to me and tell me they just kind of felt they were isolated, but hearing me and the things that I was doing, and like someone who was in it as deeply as you two, they were like, for an example, blew blew me away. But this elder messaged me one day, and at first I thought it was a prank. But he was like, he was like, I'm an elder, but I'm just done. but my family, I have a wife and 2 kids, but mentally I'm done. He was like, I'm the Kobe, I'm the Watchtower study conductor, but
Oh,
seeing you and everything that you've done, it helped me. And I realized I need to make some decisions. And I was like, wow, like, and I was just talking. I was giving my experience, but it's like I say all that to say we never know what's just a normal conversation or thought process in my head. We never know how it's going to affect someone and what it's going to help them, you know, realize that they might need to do. And that's what I
definitely.
tell everybody. I'm not telling people to leave or stay in an organization. It's totally up to them. I'm just telling you like my truth, and I'm being very transparent with myself and the organization. Someone told me they commented on TikTok, I love this organization. I'll never leave. It saved my life. I was like, good for you. Like,
Yeah.
like some people need that organization. Those of us that have woken up, we don't need that. We realize we can create a life for ourselves. So I would say, yeah, just consider it. You don't have to, but yeah, just consider giving your personal experiences because I know firsthand it really helps people.
Yeah, I hadn't considered it from that angle, what you're
Yeah,
talking about. So,
yeah, and I'm telling you, I've made videos where I'm like trying to like I talk about different topics, but I'm telling you the ones that are still getting the most attention. And you can if you scroll down my feed on TikTok, it's when I'm on the platform giving a talk, or
hmm
when I'm on the stage at an assembly, or I was doing something at a convention. Those like people just ask me questions and they want to know. Oh, they were like, some people were like, oh, you were really in it. If somebody said you were in the trenches, I was like, yeah, I was deep in it.
yeah, sounds like it.
So yeah, it's like we have a different. I think what I'm trying to say is I think people will they respect it coming from someone like us who've really been into it because they a lot of them have told me. I feel like if someone was in it as deeply as you but woke up, like that's when they start questioning and they have doubts, but now they're doing real research. And I feel good about that. I want people, even if you don't lead an organization, just do your due diligence. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Have
yeah,
informed consent at
mm,
least. Have all the
yeah,
information available to you. And
mm,
yeah, my wife was absolutely shocked, and I never would have thought in a million years that I would be where I am now. But
yeah,
yeah, it's possible. For me, it really felt like a hypnosis when I finally started looking at it differently. I was like, man, I feel like I was hypnotized,
yeah.
and there was a key word or something that snapped me out of it. And I think that's what it takes is everybody has different things that resonate with them and snap them out of the hypnosis of the organization.
Yeah. That's a
I
good. That's a good way to word. Yeah, that's how I
if
felt. You're exactly right. I felt hypnotized. Yeah,
if I was to put on my tinfoil hat, I would say it was like MK Ultra level mind control or something.
yeah. It
It's
honestly is though.
they they
The way they control and word different things and the fear mongering. Yeah,
they know exactly what they're doing.
for
Yeah.
real. Yeah, honestly, they do, which is sad too, because like I said, I think about the ones who've been in it for decades, and they still wholeheartedly believe.
Yep.
And that's why I tell people I'm not trying to like put you down or argue with you like I was once in your shoes, But yeah, how can people find you? Like what you have going on, how can they find you?
Yeah. So right now I only have the TikTok content that I'm doing, and that's at Mercifer. I have considered starting a YouTube channel. I actually started one like 3 or 4 years ago.
Mhm.
And to be honest, I don't remember what I was going to use it for, but it was going to be for a completely different purpose. But I titled it The Safe Space. And it's just been sitting there. And so I've been thinking about that more in terms of of the EXJW journey. And I've been considering starting to use that channel for a more specific use case. And if I were to start it, what I'd want to focus on is those that have had suffered abuse in the organization in one way or another, or those that have dealt with friends or family close to them that have unalived themselves because of being disfellowshipped and completely cut off from their family and their social network. And so if that's something that resonates with others and they would like to see that, I'd love to hear from you. I have an email address for it. It's the safe space channel at Gmail. And if that's something that resonates with you, or if you have a story that you would like to tell, please feel free to email me, and I'd love to connect with you and be able to put something together for that, because I think that's something that needs attention and needs to be spread out more. That they're, the abuse that individuals suffer is such a bigger problem than what we realize, and I think it needs a stage of its own. And I would give probably priority to females that have dealt with that. We've heard enough from the men in the organization. you know we need to shut that down. So if I can ask the questions, I'd rather ask the questions and give the sisters a stage.
Yeah.
And so if that's something that you'd be interested in, feel free to shoot me an email at the safe space channel at Gmail.
So you said the safe space
Channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
At Gmail. Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone, please email him. I know there are stories out there because I hear them daily. Some of them I'm just looking at my phone screen with my mouth hanging open, but it's just like, I feel the same way. I was the first, I can't remember how many, but like a good handful of my first podcast episodes were just the females.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very vocal about it. I told them the same thing you were saying, like the men always got heard in the organization. I wanted to give them a voice, and man, they jumped on it. So yes,
Yep.
please,
that's
reach out
something
to Chris. Yeah.
That's something that stood out to me about your interviews specifically that I really appreciated watching. So yeah, I'm happy to fire up that channel and use it for that purpose, and would love to help anybody that is ready to. I know it's a sensitive topic, and there are those that just aren't ready to talk about it, and then there are some that are like, I've been silent too long, and I need to get this out, and that's who people like Mitch and myself and others are out here to help and to give a platform to.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Because I enjoy doing the interviews, and because it helps a lot of people. I know that firsthand too. And the people who are ready to talk, they have some very interesting stories, and I think it'll help. The more people that hear those, they'll realize it's not just me, and I can do what they're doing. They broke free. So I think it's very, when you told me what you're doing, I was like, oh, that is awesome. Yeah, because like I've listened to it, and I try to help people, but my main focus is exposing the organization and being honest and transparent with what goes on. But individuals like yourself, and there are others that help with giving a platform more to the victims and everything. And I think that's very important. And I'll be sending people your way.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I would love it. I just need a little bit of a push to get it started. I just haven't jumped in and done it, but I would really like to get that going. So.
Oh yeah, and I'll put the email address in the description for this episode. I'll be sure to put the email address so they can reach out to you that way as well. Yeah.
Perfect.
And as I do with everyone, when I close out, what would you say? What advice would you give to the person who's thinking first, the one that may be thinking about walking away or having doubts? What would you say to that individual?
If you're having doubts, or maybe you've woken up and you're maybe deciding on whether you should race back to the organization or not, I would say give yourself some time. Really give it some thought. Do the research that you need to do to satisfy what you need. And if you're leaving and your world is turned upside down, we get it. And there's a lot of us to reach out to if you need assistance. But I think one of the primary things is take it slow, allow yourself to really process it, grieve it if you need to. It's a life altering decision and a life altering realization if you wake up to it. So just take your time and really think through the processes and get the help that you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And I like that you mentioned, if you've left and you're thinking about going back, because I've had those individuals too.
Mm-hmm.
They feel all alone, and like it hurt me when I read this one email, and he was like, "I feel all alone. I'm going back to the organization." And I was like, "Oh." I was like,
Yeah.
it's your right, but I was like, the reasons that you left, that you stated to me, those are still going to be issues when you go back. So think about that. And I also told them, I was just real with them. You know how they treat those of us who've left and we go back.
Yeah.
That we're marked. They're going to treat you different. You're going to get the side eyes. And
It'll
yes,
never be the same.
no, never. And I just tried to, gently let him know that. But yeah, you made a great point. Just because even myself, there was I would say the first 2 weeks after I walked away, every once in a while I would get weak. It was like, did I
Yep.
make the right decision? But each week that passed, I knew I made the right decision.
Yep. Same. Yeah. I kept thinking, oh, I need to run back. I just need to do more. I need to strengthen my faith. But
Yep.
then the more stuff that came up, and I reminded myself of all of the information, I was like, nope, I've made the right decision. I can tell.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate this so much. This was a pleasure. I'm glad we got to do this episode. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And like I said, I'll put your email address because I think it's very important, the route you're going, and I think it's very important and very much needed. So I'll definitely get the word out.
Awesome. I appreciate it,
Yeah.
Mitch. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be seeing each other on TikTok. So
Oh yeah. Oh boy. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this episode. I appreciate you all. Remember, you can find me on all social media platforms if you put in EXJW. And if you want to reach out to me by email, my email address is xjdub1@gmail.com. So xjdub1@gmail.com. As always, I wish you all peace and blessings and take care of yourself. We will talk soon.